Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, fires the three, and
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Welcome into Indiana Sports Beat Radio. John, the producer, here with you right now this morning or this afternoon, depending on when and where you're listening from. Jim Coyle will be with us shortly. He is having some connection issues down in his location where he's currently taking a little miniature vacation. Right now with me, as always on Fridays, Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. How's it going, Alec?
Good, John. How you doing?
I am doing all right. I am looking forward to a lovely Memorial Day weekend coming up, a 4-day weekend from my day job because I'm off today from iHeart. I'll be taking a trip up to Chicago this afternoon to go see a friend's wedding this weekend. So I've got a lot going on and a lot to look forward to this weekend.
Yeah, that sounds like a good weekend. It's my mom's birthday today, so she's in town. So we're going to be hanging out. I know I heard earlier this week you thought I was a tad bit older than maybe what I actually am. Is that accurate? I heard from some other people.
I believe so. I remember, I can't remember exactly what was said, but Jim had mentioned that it was your birthday. So first of all, happy belated birthday.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
And I can't remember if it was me who initiated this or Jim, but of course I like to take the bait all the time. And I think neither one of us really knew how old you actually were. So we were trying to figure out what age range you would likely fall under. And I think I went with 32.
Yeah, it's a tad bit older.
Was it like 28, 29?
27.
Man, I'm still not giving you enough credit.
It's all right. It's weird. You're probably the first person who thought I was older than I actually am. A lot of people think I'm a lot younger. So I mean,
here's the
I guess
thing.
that
Anytime I get put in situations like that, I always lowball. I always think people are younger than they actually are. So I was in the moment thinking I'm not going to make this mistake again. I'm going to sit there and try to be realistic. Not everybody's baby face really really shows their actual age or could be age, whatever you want to call it. But I apologize for being, I guess, 5 years off. I'm discounting you.
I guess I just look extremely wise for my age, so I guess I'll take that one.
It looks like Jim is back with us, joining us from the balcony of his hotel.
The man that never sleeps.
Yes, it's it. What's up? What's new, guys? How are you? Happy Friday, everybody. How's everyone ready for the weekend? I know there was a lot of AAU coming up. What were you guys talking about before I was able to jump on?
Well, I was bringing it back up that he thought I was about 5-6 years older than I actually am. So I had to give John a little bit of crap there this morning. But no, we were just kind of getting rolling. You talked about the that's a couple decades ago. And we were just talking about the AAU event, right? Obviously, it's the new live evaluation period that's coming up. So it's been a while since a lot of these kids have been able to kind of get out there. There's kind of a month-long stop there between the live periods after 2 in the first kind of 3 or 4 weeks. So it'll be good to get these kids back out. I know a lot of these kids have received offers over the last couple of weeks since Indiana's actually been able to get out and see them again. So for them to continue to play well, and for a guy like Cohen Carr, who has missed both live periods so far this spring, should be back at least for some part of this weekend. We'll see if he plays on Saturday or not, or if he just goes more towards the back end of the weekend. But he was expected to be back kind of right around this time. So that's kind of hurt his recruitment when it comes to Indiana specifically. Indiana is obviously going a lot more perimeter oriented, but guys who can shoot the ball, and that's just not his strength. Super versatile, super athletic, a guy who fits exactly what they're looking for when it comes to kind of 3/4 of that wing position, but just has not showcased the ability to really shoot the ball at a high clip from the perimeter. And that's what they were really looking to see him do this spring and summer. So we'll see if he can kind of readjust with missing those first few live periods and get back kind of, more up in the top tier for Indiana, just because at this point he's kind of fallen a little bit.
And there's also, I know, a couple of events this weekend, but the biggest of the two, the Nike EYBL in Louisville, where several prospects will be down playing.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be out there, and again, it's a time where you have Arrington Page, who's Indiana's top target, who's going to be there. You guys have like a TJ Power, who's going to be there as well, another very key target for Indiana. You have probably, I would say, 10 to 11 different guys that Indiana's really going hard after in the Nike EYBL, whether it's 2023 or 2024. But those top two guys, TJ Power and Arrington Page, are the top two that Indiana's really going pretty hard after. I would say those are the top two at the moment. You still have KJ Evans, but that one seems to have kind of passed when it comes to Indiana. We'll see if he ends up taking that official visit in June. It seems less likely by the day here.
There was a story about KJ Evans that I saw late last night that while I think Oregon had been favored for a long time to land him. Now, who was it? I'm drawing a blank. Arizona has popped up as a potential suitor for him, which keep that in mind, people, because Indiana starting potentially, I don't know if that's a one-off game with Arizona since it's being played in the desert, but these potential high school teammates could play if that would turn out to be the case.
Yep, absolutely, yeah. But it like you said there, Arizona really picking up a lot of steam. We're kind of the most recent team to offer a couple of weeks ago, and in that time, not only has had I believe an home visit with Arizona, but also has scheduled an official visit. Going to be going out there next week. So they're really pushing hard for that. And like I said, Indiana has been involved in that kind of main group for a very long time here. There's been rumors about him getting out to campus. He's said multiple times he's going to get out to campus. That's never really come to fruition. He told us in the last live evaluation period that he was going to be visiting in June, but didn't have a specific date for it. So we'll see if that happens. I'm not convinced that that's actually going to happen at this point. And I think Indiana fans can kind of look somewhere else outside of KJ Evans. But some other guys, there's some more deeper prospects in the class of 2025. This weekend, you have the Indy Heat team. So you'll have guys like Jalen Harrelson, Trent Sicily, Cannon Catchings, all three really talented players in the class of 2024 and 2025. So again, just a really good event, especially for a lot of these guys to get back in the groove of things, get coaches back on the road and be able to actually see these kids again in a more condensed setting.
And the biggest thing is, well, we've always been able to talk about these big time targets and these big names, but over the last 4 or 5 years, Indiana was not able to land those names. That has changed. Indiana is now in a position to land these guys and are doing so. That has made a huge difference. During Archie Miller, if they were outside of the state of Indiana, they were not coming here. Now it doesn't matter where a player is. Indiana is now a viable option for any player in the country.
Yeah, and part of that, is you see what Mike Woodson's doing with the scheduling. You touched on Arizona. Obviously, the report came out yesterday that they'll be in not this season's Empire Classic, but next season with Louisville, UConn, Texas. So again, 3 teams that are kind of in the same boat. I think you could say as Indiana, teams that have been in the national conversation for such a long time, but have had kind of more of their down years in the past 3 to 5 seasons. But teams that nonetheless are always fighting, competing for an NCAA tournament berth. You add in obviously the Kansas home and home series. You have the ACC Big Ten Challenge, the Gavitt games. Who you look at an Indiana team now, which is pretty much cemented itself in the top 2 to 3 of the Big Ten, at least for this season. So they should get, a really good team in the Big East as well. And then obviously this week with what Mike Woodson said about trying to get Kentucky and Louisville series back on the calendar. I think the fact that he knows and he's very strongly opinionated to get a lot of these big time non-conference games back on the schedule, not only is something that he can use as a recruiting tool, but something that is something just to get Indiana back on that national level and national conversation, which we've talked about that they just really have not been at in a very long time.
Yeah, I just still have my doubts that Indiana and Kentucky comes together as long as Calipari is there, even on a neutral site type thing, which he would only do with Indiana because he's going to live on that lie that the reason he doesn't do it because of the courts told me, which is BS. It was because he got his ass beat with the number 1 team in the country by a team that was still trying to come back. That's the truth of it. So, and he will never relent on that because he would be him backing down in his mind. So if that were to come to fruition, I think that's, and I say that I don't know how much longer Calipari will be at Kentucky, honestly. He's got that lifetime contract. I get that, but they're not all that happy. Things are not, we'll see how this season goes, but Louisville is certainly a much more viable option to have on the schedule sooner, it seems, because of the friendship with Kenny Payne and Mike Woodson that he talked about. And does that help Indiana playing a Louisville who's just going to be able to bring them into the state and where a lot of the recruits are? Having home and home series like that with teams, or is it better to play in these national type events like playing out in Las Vegas, the Empire Classic, some of the events, the CBS Classic that they're not a part of? Those just seem to be looked at by everybody as more of a national stage, and that's a place for Indiana has not. They've had 1 foot on and 1 foot off for a long time. And that 1 foot on has been in name, living, on the glory. But they have a great opportunity this season to change that narrative.
Yeah, and to go back to your point, I mean, you can't play the Kansases and the Dukes and the North Carolinas and the Kentuckys every non-conference game at that type of spotlight. That's obviously that's super beneficial. But that's a lot of travel too before conference play actually gets going when you're playing multiple games in a week. So to have games kind of in your backyard against teams, again, that are trying to kind of get themselves up to the national spotlight again, a Louisville program who has, like I said, been very much like Indiana over the past few seasons that have a lot of that history there, obviously not to the extent in the way that they fell with obviously Rick Pitino and trying to kind of get back up to what they were. I think it's a fun series, right? It's 2 friends trying to come together, get their programs back into a big time game. And regardless of where that's played, right? If that's in the Midwest, if it's a home and home, if they go and play in Indy or Chicago or anything like that, I think it's still something that you look at and it's going to be better than what they would have on the calendar already. And that's at the end of the day, the important thing for Indiana. And that's what Mike Woodson's trying to do is not only get these guys prepared for Big Ten play in November and in December, but be able to get them fully prepared to play teams with much different play styles in the non-conference that are going to be matching up with Indiana in the NCAA tournament, because at the end of the day, he's expecting Indiana to be in the NCAA tournament every single year that he's the coach. And we've talked about this numerous times. You're not going to be fully prepared for the tournament by just playing Big Ten opponents, because the Big Ten, it has failed every single season with some of the most talented teams in the country and some of the deepest conference teams in the country. So you try to get outside of the Big Ten, because those are the play styles that win in March. And the ACC and the Big East obviously now with the Big 12 in Kansas this past year. And those are the play styles that you need to be able to adjust to. But those are also the play styles that Mike Woodson is trying to pick and learn from, because that's what he's trying to bring to Indiana with not only his versatility and more kind of up-tempo pace, but also some really good defensive-minded teams as well.
Yeah, and something else that just occurred to me, which has not been something that ever happened in the past, though. I talked about bringing those teams from whether it's Louisville or Kentucky into Indiana, which, but this staff has extended more offers to kids from Kentucky than any staff in the history of the basketball program. I'm pretty certain. I think they've already offered 4 total. They've got 3 offers out right now, I believe, and one of which, for our listeners on the WREF down in Evansville, 97.7 ESPN, I think it's the Power kid. It's from Western Kentucky.
Travis Perry.
Perry, okay, Perry, the Perry kid from Western Kentucky.
He doesn't have an offer yet, but he's already been on campus, and they're pushing hard. He's a guy who plays for Indiana Elite, so he's a guy who Indiana is going to be seeing a lot of over the next 6 to 12 months here.
What I was going to say was, with those offers out, maybe it is beneficial to Indiana for the first time in that regard, because that has not ever been the case. But that's kind of a change.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Mike Woodson's not shying away from the big time games, not shying away from the big time prospects, and not shying away from the big time kind of blue bloods that are in college basketball right now, when it comes to recruiting, because he's now shown no matter when he gets involved, no matter when Indiana gets involved in a recruitment, he feels pretty confident that he's going to win that regardless of who else is involved. You saw that with Jalen Hutchifino, with almost tons of different programs going after him. You saw that with Tamar Bates at the end of last year, kind of right when he took over, a month in, right, jumping in extremely late and being able to woo them, much like they did Malik Renault, a very similar situation on the campus visit. So, he's picking and choosing who he wants, and he's extending a lot of offers. And at the end of the day, though, he's coming back to his recruiting board and really prioritizing, 2 to 5 kids in a class, and he's most likely going to land, 3 or 4 of those guys moving forward each year now. And it's just going to continue to snowball, and we get that snowball effect once he continues to win and once he continues to produce some of this talent and push some of it and develop some of it into the NBA.
We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about what all happened at Huber's this week as Mike Woodson makes his first trek down to Starlight, Indiana, as that event returns for the first time in 3 years to a packed house, of course, of nearly 1,000. But plenty more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com is with me. Jim Coyle here, as always. Brought to you by the Courtrooms Sports Grill down in Bedford, of course. Brought along with the WOW Club, all a part of the WOW Club Network. Make sure you go join the WOW Club in your Apple App Store or Google Play Store. You can go join that, download it, and just join for free. Then you can start adding up some bonus points. They're a proud supporter of IU Athletics. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you from the broadcast booth of Eagle Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting.
Oh, God, I wish I could get my laptop lined up.
Where are you at? I assume somewhere down in Florida.
Yeah, buddy lives down in Fort Myers.
Got it. Are you there for the extended weekend here?
Yeah.
Nice.
Just to get out of Dodge and try to not work, which was not happening.
That just reminded me, I don't want to be, since I'm going to Chicago, I don't want to drive through Indianapolis probably with it being Indy 500 weekend.
Well, that's not going to matter. The track's on the left side of the deal.
Oh, there's no way. Okay, that's good. I didn't realize I would miss it regardless.
Let me restart this thing. I can't. I've got the Wi-Fi, but I can't. I closed it on there, and then that won't pull that. It won't pull the right one back up. Oh my God, I'm so tired.
It has been a heck of a week, hasn't it?
Yes. Week that won't end. There are so many people already. We should have just taken. We should have taken a day off.
Well, I would have suggested it, but I thought since
But
you
you
were
know-
taking off Monday, then you wouldn't.
But you know what? You know what I would have said. Nope.
So I guess the deal is you want to take days off, but you don't ever
Right.
want to take days off, if that makes sense.
Pretty much.
Well, we do have Monday off, so that'll be fine. That'll help.
That is allowable.
Any federal holiday that I get off for, I said we should probably
God
take off for as well.
Damn it. Where in the fuck? Oh, there it is.
I wonder if the YouTube viewers enjoy this behind the scenes banter.
Oh, they 100%. I mean, that's why half the time I don't say anything because I know
I had somebody.
is going to be phenomenal.
I saw
Liquid-
Top Gun Maverick last night, by the way, and that was a phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
Well, we
Not
can
that
talk
anybody's
about
interested in
that.
Top Gun, but
No, I'd like to hear about it.
Not the new one.
I want to
don't
know
get
is how
immersed
does
in movies very often, but this was one of those. I don't know. Maybe it was just because it was in a theater, but I was engrossed, man. It was good.
Yeah, I haven't been to a movie theater in ages.
Yeah, me either. I miss going to a movie
Wow.
theater with a big old bucket of popcorn.
Yeah.
You live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Happy Friday. Hope it's the start of a great holiday weekend for everybody. The Memorial Day weekend. As a matter of fact, that reminds me, make sure you salute a veteran for their service. Thank you so much to each and every one of you guys. We could not be living here if it wasn't for you guys. I watch the history stuff all the time, man. A lot of sacrifices made. So thank you, first responders as well. Hopefully it's going to be a beautiful weekend everywhere, no matter where you are. This week, the speaking event for they don't even really have a name for it. Just call it Huber's. Everybody goes to Huber's. Huber's Orchard and Winery down in Starlight, Indiana, my old stomping grounds. Indiana, the Caravan returned there this year for the first time in three years. Mike Woodson's first trip down there, and he was welcomed with a sold-out audience. A lot of red in that room, man. I took a panoramic picture of it, and it was, I don't know if you got to see the photo I tweeted out, but I was like, that's a packed house, man. So a lot of people, and then afterwards they got to ask questions, and they asked a lot of the same questions that we do. The thing that they did not ask, and I was surprised because but they didn't ask about shooting, but they asked a lot of other things. But the one guy stood up, cracked me up, and said, "Coach, everybody here loves you," and da-da-da. He goes, "But these people down here want to play Kentucky. When is that going to happen?" and it brought some laughter, but pretty fun. But that he talked about it then, and we've already addressed that. But it was a great time. Thanks to everybody at Huber's, by the way. Great event, great venue. It's beautiful. It looks so beautiful. But then a lot of things that were said in the presser, Alec. And that's another thing about Mike Woodson. I love him for the fact of his openness. He is just open, and he's going to tell you pretty much the way it is. There are things he's not going to be able to tell you, like every coach, but he's as about an open he's as open a coach as anybody as Indiana has had ever as a basketball coach. I can't go back beyond the 60s, but I can say from 1971 forward, he is definitely the most approachable and open and honest coach that Indiana's had.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was a breath of fresh air when he first came in, and his personality just kind of, took over the room, and the fact that I know you've been there in press conferences at times or media availability that we've had with Coach Woodson, where he'll slip something in that maybe he wasn't supposed to or wasn't allowed to, and it's that's just part of it, and that's just part of the openness that he does have, and he tells you like it is, and you also know though when he's not going to expand on anything that either there's a good reason for it or we just don't need to know about it. And at the end of the day, he has a really good relationship with all of us. It's something that we haven't had with prior head coaches, and part of that is just due to the openness. But we're also getting a much better look into kind of what systems, what schemes, what overall part of the program that he's really trying to take Indiana to. Whereas previous coaches, the questions became very stale because we weren't getting any sort of answers on what they were trying to do or what the vision they had was. And I think that's the biggest difference with obviously Mike Woodson. And you see that, whether he's talking about Trace needing to shoot the ball more, whether he compared him a little bit to Carmelo and Amari Stoudemire with who he coached at, in the NBA with the Knicks, and kind of their skill set and what he's trying to take from them and bring to Trace. He talked about the 3-point shooting. He's been very open about that. Obviously very open about trying to get Kentucky and Louisville on the schedule, and just anything and everything from last year to adjusting to the college game, what he's learned, and obviously kind of what his visions and goals are for the next few years here. And that's obviously to get back to the top, much like Trace Jackson Davis said last week or on Monday, but to win a Big Ten championship. And he's doing all the right things to get there. Now it's about, really putting everything in place. And I think it was very interesting that he knows now things are going to have to get kind of sped up a little bit, whereas last year was a lot more of a learning curve. You don't have that this year, right? And Trace talked about it too. This is kind of the first time that you really go into a season for Indiana basketball in the last, maybe close to the last decade, right? And they have very, very high expectations, not only from inside the program, but outside the program and even nationally with what they're returning, how they finished off last year, and the pieces that they're bringing in as well. You kind of have all the pieces to the puzzle, which, and just like you said, I don't think they've had in some time where they have almost every single piece covered. Obviously, the shooting is still kind of going to be that question mark. But at the end of the day, they have all the talent to compete for not only a Big Ten championship, but Sweet 16 and potentially a Final Four. Now they just have to put it together, but they can't have any of that outside noise really affect them, or else that would be obviously a very disappointing way to kind of end not only Trace Jackson Davis's career, but kind of derail this season again.
And this is just a gut feeling that this team is going to be one that has also something that no Indiana's team has had at least in the last 6 years, and that's confidence. I think they're going to go into this season very confident in themselves, more confident in their coach because now they know him, more confident with the incoming players. The quality has been raised. The depth has been expanded. And I think that will take a little pressure. I've said this a couple times. Miller Kopp, he may end up having a decent season this year because he came in last year, and I don't know that he was expecting all that pressure that ended up being heaped on him because of the need. And maybe this season that's going to be dispersed a little more, which will relieve some of that pressure. And maybe that gives him an easier route, and maybe he finds some success this season. But I just have this gut feeling that this overall confidence is going to help them with their shooting.
Yeah, absolutely. And Trace talked about it a little bit on Monday when we got to talk to him. Was just the chemistry. The chemistry wasn't bad last year, but the chemistry on the floor took a very long time to develop because you brought in so many new pieces in addition to learning an entirely new system, and not just from a college coach, right? I mean, Mike Woodson was trying to adjust to the college game and put in systems and schemes that he thought would fit while tailoring it to the team that he had, which, let's be honest, was not the team that he really wanted. That's just obviously what he was kind of thrown into. Now he has his pieces. It's a full year of understanding defensively what to expect. And I think that's a big part in all of those players. But now what Trace was really kind of emphasizing was offensively how these guys move without the ball, where they're going to be. That's not something that just clicks overnight. And when you're trying to learn an entirely new system, that's something that really does not bring a lot of confidence to a lot of players if they expect someone to be in a certain area, but they're not used to their tendencies and they go somewhere else. And I think you brought up a good point with Miller Kopp, and I've said this multiple times. I think without Parker Stewart on the floor, Miller Kopp is going to have a much better season this year because he's going to be that one spot up shooter who Indiana really needs. But when you have two spot up shooters in addition to kind of a clogged paint, you're not going to be able to do much. And now that they know where Miller Kopp can move decently well off of the ball, it just wasn't shown and highlighted a ton last year. And that's one of those things where now you know where he's going to be, how he's going to utilize some of those off-ball screens. And that's something that I think a lot of these guards and big men, when they are looking for a spot-up shooter, are going to be able to utilize a lot more, kind of knowing those tendencies.
I've talked this week, too, about the addition of Jalen Hood-Schifino, while there's others obviously coming in. But I think he's going to start. I think he's going to start at the 2 next to Xavier Johnson. To me, that is very important, how they are able to interact and how Jalen Hood-Schifino is able to interact with the entire team, because he's going to be a very important part of that. While he's going to probably be playing the 2, I've said I think I see Xavier and Jalen being hybrid 1-2s. I think Xavier will be able to play off of Jalen Hood-Schifino. I mean, start as the 1, and then all of a sudden Jalen Hood pivots as the 1 back, and X is the 2 while on the floor at the same time, if that makes sense, because he's such a creator.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And when we've talked about this multiple times. When you look at the teams who win in college basketball, you have multiple ball handlers on the floor, but multiple guys who can create offense. And Indiana hasn't had that with true, ball dominant guys who can really create off of the dribble. And that's what you need in your backcourt. You need interchangeable 1s and 2s. Look at what North Carolina did with RJ Davis and Caleb Love, right? Different skill sets, obviously, than what Indiana is going to have in their backcourt, but very similarly to where it doesn't matter who's bringing the ball up the court. It doesn't matter in what setting. They both have the skill set to get Indiana into the offense. They both have the skill set to create off of the dribble. The biggest question mark around those two is Xavier Johnson going to be able to shoot the ball at the high level that he did towards the end of last year consistently? Don't need 3-4 attempts a game, but is he going to be able to keep the defense honest and get that defense up in his face a little bit more to really utilize the ball screens, really utilize his quickness to get into the paint? Because that's what made Indiana so lethal down the stretch last season, was that ability to give the ball to Xavier Johnson, get him in ball screen action with Race Thompson or Trace Jackson Davis, and really just play a 3-man game with those two guys, and then either whichever other forward wasn't in the ball screen action, or Jordan Geronimo when he was in the game in those couple NCAA tournament games and Big Ten tournament games late in the season. So you're going to see a lot of ball screen action. Trace Jackson Davis talked about that. I think Mike Woodson really realizes that in order to fully meet those expectations that they have offensively, it starts and ends with those two guards, and it starts and ends with those two guards getting into the paint. And once they get into the paint and in the middle of the defense, you just have to trust them to make the right decision, whether it's go for a layup, kick it out to an open jump shot, and then obviously dish it off to one of their big guys rolling to the basket. But again, they have the tools in the backcourt to be definitely one of the most talented ones in the conference. And a lot of that though, is still going to be kind of put in the hands of Xavier Johnson.
And now that Indiana has those tools, which they have the tools, but they're still not all, it's not all perfect because Jalen Hood-Schifino is a freshman. And you've got some other freshmen that are going to be pieces. So anytime you have freshmen, there's always, a little bit of question mark there. But the depth on this team, everybody thought this team was deep last year. They really weren't. And if you saw that when Mike would bring in that second platoon of guys and how bad it got for Indiana, how they were basically offensively inept at that point. That's not depth to me. That's just bodies. Now they have depth. You've added guards and a shooter, Caleb Banks, Malik Renault. You've truly added depth here. So it's going to be interesting to see who plays.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at, regardless of kind of who takes, I'm in agreement with you. I think Jalen Hood-Schifino will start alongside Xavier Johnson, and then it goes to who's kind of starting at that three, whether it's Miller Kopp, as some people have talked about, Tamar Bates, or even Jordan Geronimo. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be Miller Kopp. So then you look at your bench, right, and what teams are bringing Malik Renault, Trey Galloway, Jordan Geronimo, and Tamar Bates off their bench, going 1, 2, 3, 4 off of the sidelines there. That is true depth. That's talent. That's versatility, and you have a guy in multiple different positions there that can play on the floor. And that's the biggest thing with Indiana. They did not have that last year. They have not had that because they have not had talent coming off the bench like they will this season. And it's going to be I think a very good coaching job with Mike Woodson if he's going to be able to get all these guys to buy into their roles. And that's one thing that you kind of failed to see last season, where some of these guys are going to probably play 20 minutes one night and then they may only play 5 or 6 the next, because he's shown that he's going to go at the matchups. He's shown that he's going to go at the flow of the game, who's playing and who's hottest at the right times. And I am interested now to see who's going to be in this closing lineup. Who are we going to, is it going to be Miller Kopp, or is it going to be more of a Jordan Geronimo? Is it going to be a Trey Galloway, right? Because Trey Galloway showed that he has that versatility on the defensive end of the floor that you're going to need, but he's not able to kind of make shots that you may need late in games. So, it's going to be, I think, a lot of testing out early in the season. And that's why I think going up against a lot of these high-profile schools, you're going to learn a lot about who's going to be ready for that moment early on. And that first month and a half is really going to show Mike Woodson who he can trust going in late into conference play when you need a bucket or when you need a defensive stop. And that's just one thing that he never got at all last season from that second unit.
Yeah, and truly, Indiana, other than Trace Jackson Davis from the interior, they didn't really have a guy that could get that bucket when you needed it. When you need a shot to win the game, yeah, I know Rob hit the shot to beat Purdue, and Xavier had a great run to end the season, but that was to end the season. From start to finish, they just didn't have the guy that they could count on from anywhere to do that. Well, now I think they have a few guys that can do that, but they have so many guys that it creates defensive nightmare. It could create defensive nightmares for teams, which would be a change for certain. Because as you mentioned much earlier, talking about Indiana and the Big Ten and their inability to play out the style outside of this Big Ten. But Indiana and Mike Woodson he's not building a Big Ten type team. This team he is building is one to compete with those that we were speaking of. Great guards and wings, and you have the guys in the middle, but he's features more wing and guard play. It seems to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is he said this multiple times last year. If he kind of went smaller or went bigger, people would be asking, how is he going to match up with X, Y, and Z from the other team? And he came right back to us and he said, well, guys, they're also going to have to match up with what we do. And at the end of the day, he's building a team that teams are going to have to adjust for, and he's not going to have to adjust as much to them. And that's what Indiana is really getting into. And again, those are the teams that win in March. and that's what he's building for. He's not building for a December winning streak or a January winning streak. He's making sure that this team is built to sustain success for the entire part of the season. And if that comes with some early losses, because they are trying to figure some things out and they're playing against much better opponents, that's still going to be something that's going to help Indiana come the end of the season. And that's again what he's building for, not these early December success runs that Indiana's had in the past.
He built this city. I just wanted to sing. As soon as you said that song came to my head. Alec, thank you so much, man. I hope you have a great Memorial Day weekend. Make sure you salute a veteran. I like to say that every time. And have a great weekend.
I appreciate it. And again, just you weren't on this morning, but birthday shout out to my mom. So we're 2 days apart when it comes to birthdays. So we'll be having a good weekend.
I missed. That's right, missed your birthday on here. So happy birthday! We missed it a couple days ago. I think it's thinning out, but more importantly, happy birthday to your mom. That's what matters most.
Yep.
What's mom's name?
Ingrid.
Ingrid, happy birthday! Happy 25th birthday.
According to John, then she's younger than me since he thought I was 32. So
there you go. It's a natural phenomenon. We got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. Make sure you give him a follow and make sure you follow thehoosier.com this weekend as they will be in Louisville covering the Nike EYBL. You can get on there and follow that for free. Just go to the boards and whatnot. Alec, have a great one, brother.
I appreciate it, guys. Have a good weekend.
You as well. Hey, we got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Matt Roth, former Indiana player, just got a high school coaching job. Sharon Wilkerson, former IU player, just got a high school coaching job. Both of those guys will be on to join us here as well. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Feast Market and Cellar, with a unbelievable selection of wines, cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, everything else you could ever want. Paired with a sommelier who can tell you how to do all that. All part of the WOW Club. Make sure you join the WOW Club. Go to your Apple App Store or Google Play Store. Sign up. It's free. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
The sun is out.
You didn't even mention Zach Osterman, who just joined us for this coming segment.
I didn't see him yet.
Oh, okay.
Since that's the problem. I'm on my phone, so I can't see anything.
Do you hear Zach?
Yeah. What's up?
You guys want to make sure your audio is good.
Damn it. I thought I joined it.
I didn't realize Feast Market was a sponsor.
Yes, sir. You a fan?
Yeah, I was gonna say. Well, I mean, I like it, but I was gonna say, ditch those Yogi's gift cards. You want to be my wife's best friend? You start filling her up with Feast Market gift cards. That's
what's headed your way.
Oh boy, I think I'm trying to think. I feel like her last like maybe 3 birthday dinners where we went out because we wouldn't have in 2020 because her birthday's in April and we were all convinced the world was ending in April 2020. I'm pretty sure we've gone to Feast twice, including this year. We went there for. She loved the old restaurant that's down there at the corner of Hillside and Henderson, but that's obviously gone now, and so we trickle over to the market fairly often.
Well, they also have the Wagon Wheel, which is now BB's.
Oh, I didn't realize those were the same people.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. I've not been to the Wagon Wheel. Supposedly their sandwiches are really good, but I'm trying.
Well, they've got meats and all kinds of other stuff too, and I don't know what all they've changed. He always changes whenever he gets it something. He changes it.
Is it like butcher meat or like?
Yeah, like specialty meats, like 30 kinds of sausages.
Yeah, I'll
steaks.
have to try that because I really need to. I need to up my smoked sausage game.
Well, it's that time of year, and that's what I'm like, God dang it, I need to get those cards, man, because I want to say, I'm like, I'm gonna go get me some steaks.
All right, here we
How
go.
long do we have? Can I run and pee real fast?
Yeah, you're
go
fine,
ahead.
Zach. You're good.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I hope you, the audience, enjoyed that little
2021
behind
Honda certified pre-owned Accords, Civics, CRVs, HRVs, and Pilots. See dealer for financing deals. Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. Jim Coyle with you, brought to you by our good friends from Remax Realty. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference in you getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. It is Friday before a holiday weekend, and I think the weather is great across most of Indiana. So I hope everyone gets to go out and have fun this weekend. Zach Osterman is going to be joining us here in a second. Looking forward to talking to him. And he had a nice piece out that basically came out of the Hubers Vince the other night. Zach, I was just talking about your piece that you wrote yesterday, I believe, in regards to the potential of the Big Ten joining the other major conferences and dissolving the divisions.
Yeah, I mean, it feels very much like it's going that way. Obviously, the first thing that had to happen was the NCAA eliminated its policy requiring FBS conferences that wanted to have a championship game to have divisions. The Pac-12 literally that same day eliminated divisions. The ACC is moving in that direction. The SEC is very much moving in that direction. Everybody's just kind of trying to figure out, what the best scheduling model is. Like, I know the SEC is kind of debating whether they stay at 8, they do a 1+7 where you have one protected opponent and then your other 7 games rotate. Or I think the other one might be a 3+6, which would take the SEC to 9 games, which is something they've been resistant to in the past. But so much of this is centered around the Power 5 in particular, just kind of wanting to continue controlling their own destiny as we move further into name, image, and likeness, as we move further into certainly the playoff and the possibility of an expanded playoff. And, even really to some extent, kind of moving away from the NCAA and its governing structure. And I would be surprised, not just based on what Tom Allen said, but other people I've talked to. And I know that other people, coaches, ADs at other schools in the Big Ten have come out and said things similar to Allen. I would be very surprised if we don't see the Big Ten eliminate divisions. Not necessarily this year. It's too late for that. It's too late to shuffle the schedule that way. But if you actually go online, Big Ten schools basically across the board, as best I can tell, have either taken down the conference portions of their future schedules, because as you know, the Big Ten will announce 3, 4, 5 years of schedules at a time. If you go look like on Indiana's website, they've got their 2023 non-conference schedule, but they don't have a conference schedule. Or Purdue, Penn State, I think a couple others just took down their schedules after this year completely. There's no switches, which again is unusual because you want people to know that these games are set up so they can plan in advance. There's a reason why they build these schedules out. They're rebuilding the schedule. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do with it. But I think everybody, listen, and not because I cover Indiana, or not because, what's the best way to put this? Not because I support Indiana, but because covering Indiana has given me a front row seat to it for the last 8 years. The divisional imbalance has just become a problem for the Big Ten. Only twice in the history of the Big Ten championship game has a team currently in the West won it. That was Wisconsin both times, and the second of those 2 times Wisconsin won it. They actually finished 3rd in their division. That was back in the old Legends and Leaders days, behind Penn State and Ohio State, who both beat Wisconsin that year, but were ineligible for the postseason for different reasons. it has just been such an East-dominated event. The 8 years that we've played in an East-West alignment, 6 of those 8 years, the top 2 teams in the final AP Top 25 from the Big Ten in each of those seasons were in the East. It's not good for the league. It's not putting the best. It's not giving the league the best opportunity to maximize its resources in an era when, like it or not, the college football playoff is going to be the ultimate currency moving forward in the sport. I mean, we're only moving more and more toward that, whether people like that or don't.
And not having to play Michigan State, Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State guaranteed every year is going to be a gigantic help to Indiana. Now they're going to be playing Wisconsin and Iowa or someone in replace, but it's not going to be 4 juggernauts. It's not going to be 4 heavyweights that replace that schedule, which has to be a huge burden relieved off of the program.
I mean, I mean, you could say the same for Maryland. You could say the same for Rutgers. Those 3 programs have combined for 9 bowl games in the 8 years since conference was realigned. I'm not saying that the Big Ten's doing all this just to help. It's maybe its most struggling programs. For me, the Big Ten should be doing this because if at the end of the season your 2 best playoff threats are both in the same division, what are you doing? And you'll get people who say, well, the SEC doesn't suffer this. The SEC will get teams in the playoff conversation even if they don't play in the conference championship game. And that's true sometimes. But then to be fair, the SEC's got 2 strong divisions. Like, to be very fair, the SEC's got 3 teams in the West, right? Three teams in the West that have won a national championship in the last 15 years. 2 more in the East that have won a national championship in the last 15 years. I recognize SEC bias where it's come, trust me. I practice it sometimes as a native Southerner, but the reality is there's so much more strength. There's so much more balance in the top line strength in that conference between East and West. It's just not good for anyone. I mean, it's not good to have 3 programs in the conference, 3 of your 14 programs, because listen, bowl games still make your league money. Like the way the Big Ten's bowl structure works is everybody's bowl payout goes into a giant pot, gets mixed up together, the conference takes a share, and then everybody else gets some. So the more teams you get in bowl games and the more teams you get in good bowl games, the better it is for everyone in the conference. Obviously, the playoff is the biggest fish. I don't dispute that. The New Year's 6 right after that. But like the more bowl money you bring in, the more everybody in the conference benefits. It's not good for the conference to have 3 teams that are basically, I'm not trying to demean Indiana or Rutgers or Maryland, but are fighting uphill just to not start the season 0-4, and basically hope and pray that at least one of those teams is down for a year. And people say, well, Michigan State did it. Michigan State, found a way to – well, okay, Ohio State was – as Michigan State was rising under Mark D'Antonio, Ohio State was under sanctions. Penn State was under sanctions. Michigan was going through a historically bad stretch, like literally as bad as it had seen in the post-war era. That's not going to that confluence of factors is just not something that's going to happen again. You've got to be able to mix this up a little bit more. And it's not to say from Indiana's perspective that Ohio State's just going to disappear from the schedule, because obviously they're not. You're still going to have to play some of these teams, but you're not going to start the season looking at a schedule and saying, geez, there's a stretch between, Columbus Day and 5 weeks after Columbus Day, Thanksgiving, whatever that is, where we have to play at Michigan State, at Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and there's a trip to Rutgers sandwiched in there. And so it's just like, then there's a 1-4 stretch. You better do something the whole other part of the season, because it's going to get derailed there if not. It's just not healthy for anyone.
Yeah, Matt Roth is going to join us next. I got one more question in line with that. The Big Ten is, I think, one of 2, if not the only one remaining, that still is sticking with 9 conference games. Going back to 8 would really help put more conference teams in bowl games, one would think. But they're hanging on to that 9 conference schedule right now for some reason. What are they benefiting from doing that?
I mean, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think the Big Ten's – I mean, it's worth saying The SEC's been the biggest 9-game holdout. Like the SEC's been the one that's like, well, we don't need 9 games. 8's good enough for us. We're still getting all these teams into all these games, all these non-conference marquee matchups, and we're still getting in the playoff. The SEC's probably going to 9. And my understanding is the teams that want 9 are the big ones. It's the Vanderbilts and, you know, the Ole Misses and the Missouris of the world that are saying we don't want another conference game. We need wins, to your point. But I think the SEC is going to 9. I don't think 9's going away. I think that in the playoff era, especially as we start thinking about expanding it, conferences are going to feel like they need more quality games. And the other part about 9, and again, like I get people don't like hearing this stuff, but think about the practical fallout from it. The other thing about 9 conference games is that's more inventory you can sell on your next TV deal, because Fox, ESPN, ABC, whoever you're talking to, they would rather see a 9th conference game than another week where ultimately a lot of your conferences, a lot of your teams are playing, you know, guarantee games, bye games, FCS opponents, MAC opponents, whatever it is. And again, people hear that and they say, well, why is it always about money? Sure, I get that. But the next time you want Indiana to give Mike Woodson a raise, remember that the biggest single line item in the revenue and expense report in terms of money coming in every year is TV money. And the Big Ten TV deal is about to explode. It pays $440 million a year right now. That's not counting Big Ten network revenues, which the Big Ten is a little bit murky about, but certainly go north of $100 million. So right now, the Big Ten probably distributes about $500 to $550 million to its member schools every year. There are people who believe that number could reach $1 billion in the next deal.
That is crazy.
And if you're Indiana, because we've said this so many times, sure, that money makes a difference for Ohio State, but Ohio State will always have the money, if you know what I mean. Like Ohio State will always have the money. Michigan will always have the money. If you're Indiana, that number suddenly going up 30, 35%, you'll play an extra conference game if it means that TV deal is that much fatter.
Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Make sure you follow him. Be a subscriber. I am. Keep local papers alive, baby. Zach, have a great Memorial Day weekend.
Champions League final, baby. Let's go. Let's go.
There you go. So who's your team? Are you Liverpool? Are you Liverpool? There you go. So you may get a chance to watch some soccer this weekend. Thanks, Zach. Thanks a lot, brother. Appreciate you. We got to take it.
As always.
You betcha. Matt Roth joins us next here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, former Hoosier, now an Indiana high school head coach. Back with him right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, how we doing this morning?
Good. Sorry about that, man. Those writers are talkers, brother.
No, you're good. You're good.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Were you coaching before you got the job?
Yeah, last
just
year was
quick
my first year back on the sideline as a varsity assistant, and I had worked my first 3 years up here back like 2013 to 16 with Mark at Blackhawk, and then stepped away for family and work stuff, and then got back into it last year.
Sharon just got the Jeff job. I'm trying to think, are there any other former players that are coaches in the state right now?
Lance Stemler's an assistant at Providence.
Yeah, I talked to him. Yeah. And they still have that Floyd Central job still open. I can't believe that.
Yeah.
Surprising. That's surprising. That's a pretty big job.
Yeah. But I can't – there's not any that come to my mind right away.
Well, you were the first. You beat Sharon. Well, no, Sharon was already coaching. Daggone it. That's right. I was going to say he beat Sharon, but no, he was up at Logansport or someplace, I think.
Yeah. No, like there's a lot of managers that are head coaches around the
in high school. Really?
Yeah, like Fort Wayne Snyder, Jeremy Roush.
I've told one of my writers, I said, I want you to try to track down as many managers as you can and see what they're doing, because every one of those SOBs are doing something good. I promise you. They're succeeding. those managers, you want to find success stories, go track down a former IU basketball manager.
Absolutely.
It's amazing to me. That's like that's a training school in and of itself.
Yeah.
It's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. Something to talk about. But I mean, Scott Dolson.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, LJ Wright, is the head of men's championships for the NCAA.
Yep.
Former manager. I think he was a manager with Scott Dolson, I think. This is cool. How much longer we got there, John Boy?
Let's see, about 35 seconds. I'll go ahead and pull us back in.
For a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, everybody. It is a Memorial Day holiday weekend. I hope everyone's had great plans to go out and have some fun, but we're about to make it fun for you. Matt Roth, former IU player and now head basketball coach at Blackhawk Christian High School, joins us. How are you, sir? Coach?
We're doing well. Glad to be on the show with you this morning.
Appreciate having you. We chatted here and there over the years, but you head coach, you're one of only 2, I think, former IU players that are currently a head coach in Indiana high school basketball. Sharon Wilkerson, the other, who will join us next. But I'm like, now that I think about it, I would probably thought that number would be higher. But you pointed out there are a ton of managers that are coaches around the state.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's you saying there's only 2. That seems surprising to me, but I haven't done my homework on that. But
me either.
I would have thought
That's
that number would have been higher.
Yeah, me too. But you mentioned the managers in the break, and I was talking about you want to find a success story. Go follow any former IU basketball manager. They're going to be doing something, whether it's becoming a head coach in the NBA or on the front office guy. It's nuts. But yeah, it's crazy. But let's talk about Matt Roth, and now you're taking over the reins of a school that's had some success too. So it's not like you're stepping into a bad place. That's got to be exciting for you to have that kind of a foundation for your first job.
Yeah, no, it's a great spot. The administration, the support staff there at the school is top notch. From day one of interviewing, it seemed like all the things were aligning to it being a great opportunity. And fortunately, the interview process went smooth and things kind of aligned there. But I can't wait to get started. I know our athletic director Joel Cotton's as good as they get, and I know he's working with me on making sure we build out our schedule and finalize all the things we need to here. Kind of being late into the spring, get our summer stuff all programmed. So there's no shortage of help there, and that's awesome. Stepping into it kind of as the first head coaching job of my career. So very excited and thankful to have a good support staff there.
What is your ultimate coaching goal? Do you have one, or is you just letting that play out?
Well, I think just let it play out. I feel Fort Wayne is home. My wife is from the Fort Wayne area. Our kids are heavily ingrained in the school systems here. At going to be a second grader and then kindergarten, preschool on down, and it's just a place that feels like home. So I don't, envision moving all over the place. Blackhawk is a great place to raise a family. It's a great place for kids to go to school. They've got a unbelievable education system there in the Fort Wayne area. The athletics are as competitive as anywhere in the state. especially being a small school. One of the things that Mark, prior to me being there, he always would play anybody, anywhere. And so our schedule is not a traditional 1 or 2A schedule. And so with that, creates challenges, but also great opportunities. So I'm very excited to get started there. And I would love to have a nice long career there, being able to mentor and watch these boys continue to grow and ultimately become young men here in the next few years.
Becoming a high school head coach brings a lot of other things too. When you come to the head guy, at least one thing is not recruiting, but scheduling. You mentioned scheduling. You have to now learn how to be a scheduler, which you talked about, which I know you already have experience doing that. But that's just one of the other things that a head coach has to do, and to create a schedule that is beneficial for their team, however that is. And you just mentioned you guys don't play the traditional schedule. You play a hard road, man. You guys play up and play a challenging schedule, which obviously is meant to make your team better and to be ready at the end of the season for those guys that you'll be playing that weren't doing that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a challenge in itself, but the school in the past has done a great job of putting that challenging schedule together. And it makes it fun, even being at a small school, the kids in the summer, they play together. They all know each other. The basketball community here in Northeast Indiana is tight, just like all the other regions of the state. So they all know each other. They play against each other. So it makes for some really fun and, almost every night being kind of a rivalry, high stakes game because they all know each other from the summer and playing AAU and growing up playing travel ball together. So it's something I look forward to being able to continue to build on. And, I'll feel good when we iron out the last couple of kinks to make sure we have a full schedule for the year. But it's definitely something I'm grateful to have an AD who has been through it and knows kind of what to expect. It can help navigate some of those decisions here to make sure we get our schedule filled up.
Blackhawk Christian should lead I think everyone's going to expect them to lead the state in 3-point shooting next year. Not that there's any pressure on that or anything, but I think everyone's going to expect it no matter where you are. They're going to be great because when people will be talking about IU's woes with shooting, there's very few names that come up all the time. Jordan Hulls is a name that comes up, but your name always comes up as well as someone they could certainly use. Teaching shooting, that kind of shooting, how hard is that for guys that when you see guys that just aren't really mechanically doing it how you'd like? How hard is it to physically change a guy's shot?
Well, it's one of the most difficult things you can try and do. Not only because of how much goes into a good jump shot, but then also the older people get, the less they want to spend time on just working on one or two things. And so often in shooting, it's one or two basic fundamental things that if you can iron those out over the course of several months, the younger they are, the quicker you can change things and adjust because they don't have the muscle memory and the bad habits yet. And so it's a tricky situation. How much do you try and bite off versus how much do you just encourage them to get in the gym, put in reps, and ultimately you can pull several guys from the NBA whose shots would be quote unquote non-traditional, but they do go in. And so getting them to understand the work ethic that it takes to be a good shooter. If you can get them to understand that, it's easier to tweak one or two things in the mechanics of the shot. I try and keep it simple. Try and keep it fun. It's not, the best shooters in the world in the NBA are, shooting in the mid 40s percentage wise on the high end. The league average has been, I think, somewhere around 37 to 39 over the last decade, which is not a great number when you start talking percentages. So you've got to find a way for these guys and even the girls that I've worked with as a trainer over the years. You've got to find a way to make it fun. And the easiest way to do that is get them in the gym and getting shots up. And the more they see the ball go in, the more they want to keep working.
And for high schoolers, you have an opportunity to do that when they're younger. When they get to college, and let's say for IU, for example, who has had just hell shooting the ball over the last 5 years from distance, So it's not been one guy. And the fans were like, they got to practice shooting free throws. It's like, it's not that. That's mental. But even with the 3-point shooting, what can be done at that level, at the collegiate level, for a team like Indiana? That you got guys that they can, but they're just not successfully shooting the ball.
Yeah, it's hard. There's a lot of things that go into the game. There's a lot of pressure at that level. So the mental game, the mental side of things becomes even more important. Just in terms of what they're doing, building good habits. The repetition, I've seen it firsthand. I know they're getting shots up. I know they're working at it. But it's just at that state in the game for them, they can see it going in practice over and over. But, when it starts going in front of 17,000 consistently, that's the ultimate boost to that confidence to continue to shoot. And, I think they've put a focus on it. I know Coach Woodson wants guys that can make that jump shot. And so I think as they continue to bring it in and just work on, instilling a culture of making shots, I think as a team, you'll see a collective rise in their average. Certainly, I hope so. It's easier on the eyes when those jump shots go in, and when those free throws go in, it's easier on the heart. So.
Well, if it doesn't, we can blame Jordan Hulls. He's on staff now.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, we would not want to do that. You mentioned Coach Woodson was with them the other night down at Huber's, but you obviously had a chance to talk to him. Have you been down to Bloomington since he's taken the job? How's that going?
Yeah, we got to see him. I came down for the Pigs golf outing just a few weeks ago. And so I got to talk to him a little bit there. We did not make it down last year, just with, I think there were 3 games we attempted to come to, and between either my wife, myself, or the kids, we were sick or something was going on. And, so we had to stay home last minute, cancellations on getting down there. But I know we're excited to get back to Bloomington. We're bringing the kids down just this summer for a weekend just to kind of be in Bloomington. I know Jordan will be back home with his family, so get the kids together, let them kind of run around, probably crash JC's house one of those days, and just try and have a good weekend in Bloomington. It's been with COVID, with everything that went on, it's just been hard to get down there and feel comfortable. And the last thing you want to do is travel when you've got a sick kid or somebody who's on the mend from being ill. You just don't know. In today's world, it's just better to play it safe.
Absolutely. Joni Halls will take good care of you guys when you're there for certain. But yeah, that'll be great. Jordan Hulls coming home, as you said. I saw last night, I think they have a game today. They're in the playoffs. So when he gets back is according to how far they go in the playoffs right now. But yeah, having you two guys on staff. Speaking of that, any thoughts of collegiate coaching one day? I know we talked about it earlier, letting it play out, but just, pie in the sky, thinking away. I know you mentioned the Fort Wayne is home, but something like Jordan is doing, although he's from Bloomington, but joining the IU staff. Ever thoughts of moving to the collegiate when you're thinking about your long-term future?
Yeah, I mean, there's always thoughts of what's next, what's on the docket for the future. But I've just found in my since being here, almost 10 years. It's good to have those things, put them on a back burner, but if you just put it as a focus point, you get distracted from the current. And so currently, I feel real confident in what we're doing here. Really excited about the group of boys I'm going to have at Blackhawk. And what's on, what opportunities might be there in the future. It's hard to predict, hard to, say what that looks like. So, if the right situation came along, I think, as a family, we'd have to talk through that. But I think, both Lindsay, my wife, and I would just have such a focus on being present in the current situation. We've got a young family, 3 kids that are hyperactive in any sport, any activity they can be in. And so it's best for us to stay grounded in the moment and be present with them. So, I'm sure I could go down that alley of what that could look like, but that's just that's not an important pressing thing for us. That's not one of our priorities as a family. So if that came about somehow, some way, that'd be a great opportunity to have to navigate through, but not something that I'm going to stress over or lose sleep on.
Your current players have to be pretty exciting about the opportunity of getting to play for you. I'm sure that they are well aware of your collegiate exploits and everything that you've done. That has to give them a continued ray of excitement. They were going from a good coach, and now they know that they have another one coming in.
Yeah, no, there's definitely an excitement level. With the boys, with the kids coming into the program, even from the middle school level. They've been blessed to have an unbelievable coach who, ultimately, lost his battle with cancer here very recently. But there's a definite excitement and I think an eagerness from the boys to be able to get back in the gym and get back to work and spend time, playing a game that they all love.
And you mentioned that coach passing. How tough was that for the community, for the program, the school?
Oh, it's I couldn't even put it into words of how difficult, how much he meant to that program, to the community there at Blackhawk. His personality and his love for the Lord and the love for the kids that were at the school it's unmatched, and so it affected kids from the pre-K level all the way up through kids he coached, 10, 12 years ago. And so it was just a matter of, being present and being there for support for the kids. I was fortunate to be able to call Mark a friend, but also, a colleague, having worked with him as an assistant for 3 years. And so it was a difficult process, but it was also a process that, he was able to talk through over the course of this last year in great detail with a lot of the kids. And they had a really good understanding of what he had been going through. So it was certainly a difficult process. But again, one that, going back to that support staff and the admin team that's at Blackhawk, for me coming into that environment and that situation, I felt like, the support for those kids and the community was as good as you can imagine, given all the circumstances. So, I'm excited, having been able to talk to Mark, just to try and be able to continue building on some of those foundational things that he had instilled in that program. They do a ton of great things, and I'm excited to be able to kind of carry that torch and be able to continue on, leading the correct way and doing the best we can for that school to be a light in the community.
Well, they're certainly fortunate to have you. The kids are fortunate to have you, and we are fortunate to have you, Matt Roth, and I cannot thank you enough. And congratulations again. Look forward to following you and keeping up with you, and hopefully see you soon. Jordan Hall's golf outing is on the 23rd, so hopefully you can get away with that. But cannot thank you enough for coming on with us today, man. Appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. Appreciate you making time for me, and hope to be back on the show here soon.
Absolutely. The great Matt Roth, new head coach at Blackhawk Christian High School in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We'll be back with Sharon Wilkerson, the new head coach at Jeffersonville High School. After this, brought to you by our good friends from Southern Stone Restaurant. Great Southern food with a Southern flair.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting.
All right, so just a heads up before Sharon gets here. Yeah, this segment, when you're done at 10:30.
Yeah, it's not the last segment.
Yeah, just say we've got more coming up if you're listening on radio or something or whatever. You get the point.
But do we not have more coming up?
No, we will. I just don't know what it's going to be yet.
I mean, but am I going to be done?
We will be done from YouTube if you want to be done by then. Yes.
No, I'm just asking.
You've got to go all the way to 10:46 or something.
No, we don't. If we don't have a guest, no.
Yeah, we'll be as soon as you're done with Sharon, which I've messaged him about 10 minutes ago, confirming that he was still available. I haven't heard from him yet, but
let me text him.
But yeah, 10:30, wrap it up with him. It doesn't have to be on the dot, obviously, but as soon as right around 10:30, just wrap it up and let.
Well, I can stretch him. That's going to be great, actually, right?
You do whatever you want, but
how much time do you want left in that last segment is what I'm asking.
I mean,
I'd love to
because that's a full. I need more time. But if I'm putting in something new, it's basically either 10:30 or you're going all the way to the 10:45.
No, I want you to tell me when I need to stop. That's all I need, and I will stop. I want to be done.
Okay. Well, right at 10:30, I will pop in and then just kind of ask your last question or two at that point, and you can wrap it up if you need to. But you kind of need to get out right as close to 10:30 as you can. This doesn't have to be right at 10:30. We got 1 minute to our back.
Man.
Did I just lose you?
No, relax.
Okay.
Anytime I see, that's why using the phone is just, I hate it.
Yeah.
Oh, that ain't a good look.
All right, here we go.
Through 2021 Honda certified pre-owned Accord, Civics, CRVs, HRVs, and Pilots. See dealer for financing deals. Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by BB's Market in Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Friday of a Memorial Day holiday weekend. Indiana Sports Beat. Jim Coyle with you. John, the producer here, as we wait the arrival of Sharon Wilkerson. Hopefully he can still join us, the new head coach at Jeffersonville High School. He played at Jeff, won a state title there, former IU player, played under Bob Knight. Just finished up with Matt Roth, a former IU player that is now the new head coach at Blackhawk Christian High School. And oh, darn it, I meant to ask him, or did I, about the various managers that are coaching in the state, because he.
But you all talked about that, yeah.
Okay, I couldn't remember if he named some of the guys or not, but yeah, that is an amazing thing, and I've got R.C. Lehman, one of our writers. I said, dude, here's a project for you. Track down every manager for as far back as you can, from the Knight era forward, because I think it would be shocking to see the entire list in its entirety. I'm sure that everybody is not in the front office or head coach. I'm not saying that, but it is a high majority of those guys that are doing different successful things. Like I mentioned, LJ Wright, who I went to high school with, is the director of all NCAA men's championships. Was the manager on the 87 team, I think, with Scott Tolson, who is now the athletics director for Indiana University. Lawrence Frank, you know that story, became an NBA head coach. He's now a front office guy, and many others. The head coach at FAU. I'm drawing a blank right now. He's been on with us. I feel bad. Tag on it. But anyway, you get my point. It's just, but it also shows you that there are different avenues to get to places, folks. You just got to sometimes know where to find the better ones. I think it takes a smart person to figure that out. But holiday weekend plans, Johnny boy, what do you have coming up?
Like I said earlier, my wife and I are going up to Chicago for the weekend. A friend of ours from college is getting married, and so it'll be our first time. It'll be my first time in general, and I think my wife's first time in Chicago.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not.
Well, stay away from the bean. I think somebody got shot there like a couple weeks ago. Yeah, why would you go to Chicago?
Well, we're seeing a friend get married is what we're going to Chicago.
Oh, that's right. I missed that part. It's a beautiful city, but But yeah.
And I saw, I mentioned earlier too, I saw Top Gun Maverick last night, which was a fantastic movie. I don't know if you want to talk about Top Gun. We don't have to.
That's fine. All right. Well, tell me about, I want to know about what Val Kilmer was able to do, because he can't speak, or he speaks through a device.
Yeah, so the one scene that, or at least the one major scene that he is in, he uses a computer to type his message to Maverick.
I was wondering how they were going to get around that.
Yep.
Curious. Well, cool. I would just like to. I miss sitting in a theater. I used to live. There was a theater that was really close. I would go over by myself, and they had what they called madness size popcorn. It was a big old bucket, $5.50, baby, and I'm like, and free refills. I was like, I'm all in on that. I said, give me the bucket. Go in there and watch a movie and just need I'd have to take a towel in with me, man. And fingers are so buttery from that. But I certainly missed that.
I'd seen a few movies in the theater.
How crowded was it? Are people going back?
Well, here's the thing. There was probably 4 or 5 different showings going on of that specific movie since it was the opening night for Top Gun. But
wow.
It looked like a typical day at the movie theater to me. It wasn't crowded. There wasn't a whole bunch of people, but it's definitely a movie that you need to see in the theater. I don't think I would have. It was definitely a great movie, but I think to get the most out of it, you need to see it in the theater for sure.
I can't see the chat comments today, so
Let's see what we've got here. Oh, as Jim removes himself, Forrest says, JTP, gotta hit dues while you're there. It's at Wabash in Ontario. I will take note of that, Forrest. Pete says, join your Jim.
I can't see the chat comments, so
I'm going through some of them real quick.
Oh.
Pete was saying, anyone see the Tom Cruise James Corden where Cruise took him flying? It's funny.
I
saw a preview for that, but like a little.
I did too. I saw the same thing, and I wanted to see that because I'm sure it would have been funny. But no, I did not get to see that.
JT 5 Left says, if I like fish, I should go to the Calumet fishery. I do love me some fish, so if I get an opportunity, I will.
What did you call that?
Calumet? Is that not how you say it?
There's a famous farm down in Lexington. Do you know the name of it? That's spelled very, very similarly.
No, I don't think I do.
You've never heard of Calumet Farm?
I guess not. So it's Calumet and not Calumet?
Yes. Well,
5 Lefts, you can correct me if I am.
I'm sure it depends on where you live, but I would think that it's. But you know what? You never know, because Charlotte, North Carolina, in Michigan, it's Charlotte, Michigan.
Well, like down here in Kentucky,
you got Carmel by the Sea and Carmel, Indiana.
Down here in Kentucky, you have Versailles, Kentucky, which I don't know where the Versailles is, but that's how you really pronounce that.
It's in France.
There you go. 5 Left says you are correct. So there you go. I apologize. Calumet fishery.
It's all right. So learning something new every day is always a great thing.
Yeah. Was it that Kevin Brockway always says your brain doesn't develop completely until the age of 26?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know what happened to me. Indianapolis 500 going on this weekend. Sunday up at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Expecting great weather. They're going to probably, when the weather's like that, they could, I don't know if they'll get 300,000 or not, but they'll probably be in the 275 range. And just think about that, people. 275,000 people. I'm trying to think what Indiana city is that. I don't know. How many people are in Evansville? John, you have to Google that. Just guessing. I'm just trying to think of a town the size of about 275,000 people. in the state. And imagine that entire city being in one place.
Yeah, Evansville is 118,000.
Okay, so double the size of Evansville, and you still are not going to have as many people that will be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway this weekend.
Fort
That's
Wayne's
mind-boggling.
268,000.
Okay, there you go. It's like putting the entire city of Fort Wayne, the entire city, in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Think about it on that level. That's crazy. It's the largest sporting spectators event in the world. Where else could even hold that many people, I wonder?
No, I have looked up before that the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and I believe this is still the case, is the largest stadium in the entire globe, obviously.
Yeah, I don't, because they've had 300,000 people there. On the 100th running, they had 330,000 people. We talked about that earlier. It's like 0.1% of the entire population of the country.
What is it about the Indy 500 that brings that many people in? Because I'm not discounting it. I just don't understand how an event that is honestly so niche compared to the typical sporting event can bring that many people to one setting for a weekend.
First thing I would say is tradition. It's been going on for over 100 years. It is, to win that race is immortality. So anytime you have an event that creates, I mean, not immortals, but you know what I'm saying, but it creates superstars.
Yep.
Every race does not create a superstar. There are only so many events that create superstars. The Masters. If a guy who has never won a major wins the Masters versus winning the Sony Open in Milwaukee, that's the difference right there. And so that's what makes those events so drawing. You have the tradition to it. The layout. People can go, more people can go and see the same thing and not have, a bad seat. They can host more people. So it's all that stuff together. And then you throw in the fact that it's on a Memorial Day holiday weekend. It's a great combination. It's the greatest racing day in America. Not only is it the Indianapolis 500, but you've got it's the Monaco Grand Prix this weekend, in addition to NASCAR's longest race, the Coca-Cola 600. So there are 3 of the premier races in motor racing. The 600 is not considered a major, a NASCAR major, but it's a big win. It does not compare to winning Indy. It does not compare to winning Monaco. But man, you talk about, if you're a racing fan, you're going to be in heaven. So just throw some dogs on the grill and kick your feet up.
Says earlier, if 300,000 people buy one beer and hot dogs, that's over $5 million for the weekend on concessions alone.
And that's when you ask yourself, how can these big stadiums operate just and being used on so few of times? Bam. Pete just gave you the answer. You got to make hay when the sun shines, people.
Yeah.
And man, the sun is going to be shining this weekend. But they've really upped the ante there at the track too, though. Now you've added the NASCAR race some time ago, but now they've changed it to the road course, which makes it way more exciting for NASCAR. You've got IndyCar racing there. Well, they just had the Grand Prix there, I believe. Yeah, they just had the Grand Prix there. So tons of racing and exciting, fun racing going on there. But it's just now. And if you really want to have fun, you can listen to the Indianapolis 500 on the radio. Now that to me, like having the TV on and the radio on, which is a lot of people like to do that for like IU basketball, but just listening to a big race on the radio is awesome because I love how they're able to, in great concert, go from about 8 different guys in a sequence calling a single lap. And it's like a relay race where they just hand the baton off. Jake Query, who's been on with us plenty of times, I think he's in turn 3. And our good friend Chris Denari, voice of the Indiana Pacers, who's on with us each Thursday, is in turn 4, the biggest turn at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So I'm going to look forward to listening to Chris Denari call the action coming out of turn 4. Because I probably won't be in front of a TV anyway. But that just think about that and think about this. That's got probably not for younger people, but if you're 40s and up, especially if you grew up in Indiana, man, those sounds. I can shut my eyes and see grilling going on, and if you're not at the track, grilling going on, just being outside. The race is on, and on the radio outside somewhere, you got it on the TV and in the house. It's just it just creates a lot of great memories, I think.
Yeah, it'll be something I definitely want to experience one day as somebody who never has gone to the Indy 500, but I'm sure I will eventually.
Well, as you should. I would absolutely recommend that. It's an event very different from, say, the Kentucky Derby, another huge sporting spectator event. But at the Derby, you've got, 12, 13 races throughout the day. They have a card of races, the first race, and then about, 45 minutes later, they'll have the second race, and then they start bleeding it more and more. Then 50 minutes later, they'll have the next race, and it's an hour in between. And they just stretch it out all day. And it's funny, they're just walking around, people walking around, drinking, having fun, and not having to watch action, as opposed to the race continuing, like the Indianapolis 500. So very different types of events. But both entertaining in their own right.
Which infield is worse, the Churchill Downs infield? And I'm talking about in terms of
no question
people.
This is not even an answer. There's not even a question. The snake pit at Indianapolis has been tamed way down, and I know the people that went to the Derby back in the day all say, "Oh no, you guys, I've seen the infield. I know." And I know that they partied and you saw the boobies, all that stuff. Not the snake pit is notorious. I mean, go Google stories from the snake pit. Yeah, just because of the size, I think. And if you're in there in that infield, you ain't watching that damn race. You're definitely not watching the race. You're not there for the race. You're definitely just there for the party. Now, Indianapolis still has, a lot of people in the infield. The Derby, they've really changed that. It does not have nearly the amount of people in the infield that it used to.
That's it, wrap up.
Oh, okay. Well, we appreciate you. We've got more coming up here on this holiday weekend. Hope you have a good one. But let's see. Trying to see who are BB's Marketplace. That's right. Make sure you stop by or reach out to BB's at visitbb's.com for your specialty steaks. You could have had a bunch of great meats for this weekend. I'm trying to put together a thing, like I said, Indiana sports meat. Oh, that's going to be great. We'll give John the credit for the name, but some packages and stuff like that. But, man, I hope everybody has a great holiday weekend. But we've got more coming up here on the radio side. So we'll be back with that right after this.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington or a
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point
My bad, I'll
Studios
fix
for
that.
more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.